Welcome back. The Michael Dunn verdict has brought issues of self-defense and stand your ground into sharp focus. The man who's been the face of these issues is George Zimmerman. So many questions about his motivations and the implications of the case and his actions since remain. We ask him about the night he killed 17-year-old Trayvon Martin and the self-defense laws he is seen as a champion of. Does he take responsibility for that night? Judge for yourself.
Do you regret that you killed Trayvon Martin?
It's a simple question, but one George Zimmerman can't seem to answer.
Unfortunately, the Department of Justice is conducting a civil rights investigation. So those are the types of questions that, because of the investigation, I have to tread lightly and I can't answer them.
We checked, and the Department of Justice is investigating any civil rights violations, but says charges aren't expected. Still, Zimmerman's reluctance seems to be about more than legalities.
Do you regret that night? Do you have regrets about it?
Certainly, I think about that night, and I think my life would be tremendously easier if I had stayed home.
If you could go back, you would have stayed home that night?
Certainly, yes. In hindsight, absolutely.
And now, as a point of clarification, you said, my life would be so much easier. When you say, I wish I had stayed home that night, are you thinking about you and also Trayvon Martin?
Certainly, I think about them, him. I think about my family, all the families that have been put in any type of dangerous situation. So yes, I think about everybody involved.
But safe to say, if you could change how that night came out, you would both be alive today?
I think that's just a different way of rephrasing it.
If you could go back and do it again, you had said you would have stayed home that night.
I would stay home.
So that both of you would still be alive today?
That's a presumption I can't make. I don't know what would have happened. I could have gotten in a car accident when I left, you know.
But you wouldn't have wound up killing Trayvon Martin if you had your way?
He probably wouldn't have ended up attacking me either if I would have stayed home. I know.
His family. Do you think about his family? Is that true?
Certainly, yes.
Because people want to know that, right? Coming out of this situation, they haven't heard you say, I feel for his family.
I appreciate the opportunity. I would hope that they had seen that at the bond hearing. I did address that.
It's different in court.
Oh, sure, but I was just simply stating that I did address it. It's because another misconception is that I've never apologized. I've never reached out to the family. Would I like to? Certainly.
What would you say?
You know, I would say exactly what I said on the stand, that I'm sorry for their loss. And just exactly what I said on the stand, most likely.
Thoughts about the victim, Trayvon Martin? The victim was Trayvon Martin, you know that?
No, I certainly was a victim when I was having my head bashed into the concrete and my nose broken and beaten, so I wouldn't say I was not a victim.
Of this, Zimmerman is sure, despite the public outrage painting him as a racist and the strong case by a prosecution calling him a murderer.
What do you want to say to people who believe that you went out that night as a vigilante, looking for trouble, and found it and bailed yourself out?
I don't focus on them. I deal with their hatred by loving my supporters more.
When people would reach out to you for the wrong reasons, who were supportive of you for the wrong reasons,
yes,
you know, because they liked that a young black man had been killed, how did that make you feel, that they saw you somehow symbolically as representing them?
Equally as disgusted with them as I was with people that were threatening my family and saying negative things about me.
Sitting through all of it, listening to the evidence and everybody's different take on you and your actions and your reactions and why, did it make you doubt yourself?
No.
Why not?
Faith. I know.
In yourself or in God?
No, God. I know that ultimately He's the only judge that I have to answer to. He knows what happened. I know what happened. So I leave it up to Him.
A faith that keeps him in Florida, despite a number of threats on his life.
Did people around you say, George, you gotta go?
I'll never leave this country, and I'll leave my home when I want to leave my home. I know it sounds stubborn and maybe ideological, but I'll move when I want to.
The word haunted often comes up in these situations. Do you find yourself haunted by memories of that night?
No.
Because?
I don't know.
George Zimmerman is not haunted by taking a man's life. Perhaps more surprising, Zimmerman thought his life would stay the same.
The feeling was that people will accept this. You know, I'm going to go through the trial. It is what it is. The outcome will be accepted, and then I move on. That's what you thought would happen?
I was hoping for that, yes.
And when did you realize you weren't going to get what you hoped for?
I think it was the first speeding ticket when that made international news. It was shocking to me.
And of course, speeding tickets would be the least of it. Domestic disputes, allegations of threats with weapons, and then the man who couldn't hold off a teenager becomes a prize fighter, telling the world he takes on all comers. Why? Coming up after the break. All right, so the man who's been described as the Loch Ness Monster, someone who makes waves wherever he pops up, that's George Zimmerman. He says he's not going away, but why?
As long as you don't have any warrants, we cut lights with a warning, okay?
It was a simple speeding ticket, but nothing is simple when George Zimmerman is involved. It would be the first in a string of run-ins with police that some saw coming.
That expectation that it's just a matter of time. He'll do it again. He'll do it again. This is what he's about. What do you make of that kind of?
Don't pay it any mind. Don't pay it any attention at all.
Get on your knees!
Next, Zimmerman's wife called 911 claiming he was threatening her and her father with a gun. There were no charges. Their divorce is pending. Then Zimmerman's girlfriend accusing him of threatening her with a shotgun. This time, Zimmerman would call 911 to get his side of the story out.
So why are you calling? What happened?
I just want everyone to know the truth.
His girlfriend would later drop the charges and lift a restraining order against him. During our interview, she and her young daughter wouldn't leave his side. And neither will controversy, thanks in part to his new hobby.
I've read what you put out there about the paintings. It says therapy, it's helping me, but you had to know they were going to cause attention when you put them out there, right?
Absolutely.
What did you want that attention to be about? Why are you putting the paintings out?
To be honest, I was hoping to be able to provide a decent lifestyle for my family.
Decent indeed. Zimmerman's first painting sold for more than $100,000. But the next painting was priceless for a different reason.
Angela Corey painting. Provocative. I have this much belief in the justice system. You knew that was going to be provocative.
Yes.
Why do it?
It was a creative, tangible form to show my inner thoughts, my inner feelings.
Negative towards Angela Corey.
Oh, of course. I mean, it provided a tremendous release for me. So yes, it was worth it.
And then there was the fight. A move as confusing as it was disturbing. The man whose defense at trial was an inability to hold off a teenager was now a prize fighter, willing to take on all comers for charity.
The idea of you fighting, you know, is just, the image is bad. And let alone that, you know, might be like a black rapper, like DMX or something. I mean, just the racial overtones of it, you know, were so horrible. What were you thinking there?
When I signed on, it was never going to be a black rapper, white rapper, Asian, Hispanic rapper, anything like that. It was going to be an unknown person. It was going to be a smaller event.
The whole theory of this case is that Trayvon wound up beating this guy down, you know, and this was bad, and he had the marks on the back of his head, but now he wants to fight. He's a fighter, you know? Do you understand how that was, there was a contradiction there for people?
Yes, and again, that fraction of people that said that are the small percentage that don't realize that a boxing match with the referee in controlled conditions are significantly different than being mounted and, as the witness stated, ground and pounded. If I went out there and I got beat up, the charity was still getting paid. I don't want to get beat up, but I saw it as an opportunity. I never expected it to turn out the way it did.
George Zimmerman seems to feel that way about a lot of things. For example, becoming the face of white-black tensions in America.
I actually had 2 full Peruvians raising me and 1 American, so I felt almost like 2/3 of my upbringing was that Peruvian. I have black people in my family, so it was very shocking to me that simply based off my last name, people would make that presumption.
Though he's at the center of a debate about self-defense laws, he has little to say about them.
Because of what you've gone through, and what your case was about. Do you have feelings about self-defense and where the line should be and what's right and what's wrong? Do you have thoughts about that?
I am not well-versed enough to tell you. And I feel until I sit down, I study the Constitution and probably 10 years worth of legal findings, I wouldn't be able to draw a solidified conclusion, and I don't want to do what others have done to me and speak without examining information and facts. I do, however, support our Second Amendment right.
You might think Zimmerman would be riveted to the Michael Dunn trial, given its comparisons to his own situation.
I guess I should have prefaced this interview by letting you know that I don't watch news anymore. I watch comedy shows, home improvement shows. So I'm not well enough informed to give you exacts.
How about advocating for the Stand Your Ground laws that many identify with him? Are you comfortable being the face of Stand Your Ground?
I'm not comfortable being the face of anything, to be honest with you.
It's what Zimmerman wants to be the face of going forward that may be the most confounding. Justice. What do you want to do with your life?
Good. I'd like to professionally continue my education and hopefully become an attorney. I think that's the best way to stop the miscarriage of justice that happened to me from happening to somebody else. I don't think it should happen to anyone ever again, not one person.
What was the miscarriage of justice?
The fact that two law enforcement entities stated that I had acted within the laws of our nation in self-defense.
You don't think it was about the law?
I know it wasn't, I guess.
And what does that make you?
Like a scapegoat.
A scapegoat for?
The government, the president, the attorney general.
They would be scapegoating you, why? Just to show that they're taking a position on something that matters to a lot of people?
I don't know what they're thinking or why they're thinking it. All I know is that they're doing it. I don't know what agenda they have.
The case is over, but the judgment continues. While George Zimmerman may have won his freedom, he will probably never be truly free.
I have a lot of people saying that, you know, they guarantee that they're going to kill me and I'll never be a free man. I realize that they don't know me. I've learned that the majority of people, when they sit down with me one-on-one or with my family and I, they get a completely different perspective on me.
When you're somewhere and people recognize who you are and they're looking at you, what do you do?
Smile.
How often do they smile back?
99% of the time. The 1% that don't are the most vocal percent. Definitely the most threatening percent because they are very vocal about their displeasure. So.
People are angry, George. They're angry. The case wound up being seen as a metaphor for miscarriage of justice, blacks not receiving the same justice that whites do, their lives not mattering as much. This case became a metaphor, an example from that. Your face became the face of, this is the guy who gets away with killing a black kid. What do you do with that?
Hope that I'm dispelling those, if it takes one person a day at a time to help them realize that that's not what this case was about, then that's what I'll do.
People have put a lot on this guy. They've empowered him with ideas about what he's about and what he isn't. At least now.
I'm a little surprised by that.
Well, I don't think he's surprised. I think that that's not what he is. The idea that this is a guy with an agenda who worked the system, it's not what he is. He is really shallow when it comes to the law and all these issues that the rest of us are dealing with. And I think in a way, it makes him even more important because it shows that this wasn't about somebody who was trying to game the system. This is what the system can allow with the laws the way they are right now.
He really sees himself as a victim. When he talked about the fact that the miscarriage of justice, there are going to be people that were probably yelling at their TV saying, what about justice for Trayvon Martin's family?
Oh, absolutely. You know? In fact, here's the problem. This is why the discussion has to go beyond these trials. The courts can't fix this. There was a real trial that many people believed was going to come out as an acquittal and did. That many people believe should have never even reached trial if not for politics. But the laws at play, why he was able to avoid prosecution, are real problems. And we saw it again with the Michael Dunn trial. The laws there allow a low bar for self-defense. And you're going to keep having these cases unless you change that dynamic and change your cultural dynamic that allows people to be so quick to violence in response to threat.
Yeah, that's one of the things a lot of people are saying is why is when we feel threat, we reach for a gun. Why? What is that?
Shoot
in our
first,
psyche?
ask questions
yeah, exactly.
second.
What is that psyche?
That's part of the important discussion. We're going to continue that, obviously, throughout the show and beyond.
That's because people are split. A lot of people are saying,
Ooh, this is a tough
don't
one.
interview George Zimmerman. He
Right.
doesn't deserve the platform. That's not what journalism is about. A lot of other people were saying, I know what you're going to do. You're going to throw him under the bus because you want to make minorities happy. You want to run away from the law. The country is confused about what we allow and what we don't allow. And I'll tell you, we had an acquittal in this case. The decision is not respected. When the law is not respected, you got a big problem in society. You have to address it, and the court can't fix it. What do you think? I'm sure you're already letting me know. Use the hashtag #NewDay, and let's keep the conversation going. It's too important not to have the conversation.
And let's keep it civil, people.
Well, good luck with that. We're going to try. We'll try. Coming up next.
Let's start with having the conversation. Where it goes, it goes.
Let's take a break, though.